All right, Jesse here, reporting from my barn. Now today, I'm just gonna walk you through the initial steps for the preparation for a one-stepper. Sometimes shaker style step stools, they can come in 1, 2, 3, really any size. But for the purpose of today, I'm gonna show you how I make the one-stepper. It consists of 3 sides, 2 end pieces, 1 top, secured on top with dovetails, and then 2 front supporting aprons that go in the back and the front with through dowels. And that will give me a really sturdy one-step stool that anybody in the family can use. So let's get started. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the maple that I have that's already pre-planed back there and square up the edges. So I'm gonna start ripping off the unfinished edge just with my track saw back there. Then I'm gonna go around with a table saw, square up the other end just to make sure that I'm 100% square on both sides. And then I'm gonna come over here to my miter saw and cut things up to length. And then the final step will be to go over to my planer so that all of my pieces are now the same size. So let's get started. Now I got both edges all squared up. Now I'm gonna come over here to my simple little miter saw. It's nothing fancy, but I gotta tell you, I've had this saw now for probably 10 years. I check it every time for squareness. This thing is dead on all the time. So this is what I use and this is how I get it done. The second thing is, I have in here a fine tooth finish cut saw. It has 60 teeth in it. It's good for work like this because it helps avoid any chipping along the way. So the first thing I'm gonna do is get the 2 pieces set up. First I'm gonna get rid of the edge, and then I'm gonna cut 2 pieces 8 inches. Get the idea of how this is going to sit together. This top board is going to go on top here, the 2 legs on the side, and then I've already pre-cut 2 16-inch pieces that are about 1/4 of an inch thick. These will be the aprons that'll go in the front and the back. This will give it a lot more stability, even though they already have dovetails on there. This will be something that'll last a long time. So now I'm just going to send these over to the planer and the thicknesser just to make sure that I have everything exactly the same size. All right, again, nothing super fancy. This is how I get things done around here. I got this rigid planer thicknesser. I love it. I've sent a ton of board feet through this thing. This thing gets the job done. It comes pretty square, so you can use it very easily and for your projects. This is how I get things done. So I'm gonna start with just planing these just to make sure they're all the same thickness on the top and the bottom, because I did rip these with the table saw. Take you to the next step, which is going to be setting up the dovetail jig to do the dovetails, as well as the final assembly with the through-dowels. Okay, So now we've cut all the boards to size. Now we're going to go ahead and use this dovetail jig that I have right here. So the dovetail jig that I have here is the Porter cable. This thing works phenomenally. I've already taken the step to go ahead and put in the right pieces because it can be a little bit complicated. I'm happy to walk through that procedure at another time, but for the purposes of today, I'm going to show you kind of in real time how you might be able to set this up on the first go around. So I've taken the liberty of already putting on the right piece. We're going to be doing through dovetails here, so you have to have the right template on here and also the right depth already set on your router. This is already ready to go. Basically the template that I have set up here is exactly the same width and exactly the same thickness as the piece that I'm going to be putting together for the stool. So I've had this kind of locked in position, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it just to give it a quick test fit. How beautiful those are. It took me about 15-20 seconds. So then I can take it over here to my piece and I can line up this template on top of my piece, and I can see how this is going to lay out on top. Now, like I said before, I have a front apron that's going to go on the front and the back. And so I've already scored a line here to see kind of where these are going to line up. And as I'm looking at this right now, I can tell that this first tail and this last tail are going to fall basically right on the side. So what I'm going to likely do is I'm going to skip the first and the last pin. And that way it gives me full pins and tails all the way across the top while still looking nice and symmetrical. So now that I've done the tail side, then I can flip this around and do the pin side. Now I had to switch over because I have to change the bit to be a straight bit when you cut the pins. I also have to put a different collar on this piece, and then I have to set the depth on this. So there's a few steps that you have to do in between in order to make a good clean cut. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a shot and see how that test fit works. Right, so now you can see on my template I have perfect pins. Okay, so now I'm right here and about ready to start doing the pins. Now the pins are the part that actually stick up and show at the top of the step. So I'm going to do this on both sides of the board. I did a couple of test fits. Hopefully this will come out the way that I hope. And I'm going to do it on both sides for this particular step. All right, so let's get going. So now you can see how nicely jointed that is. Now I skipped the first and I skipped the last because when I go to put on my apron that's going to go across the front and the back, I'm going to cut these pins off. So I wanted to just leave that space so that I have that here. Okay, now I'm set here to do my tails. So all I've done here is switched out the dovetail piece, the collar that goes inside the template, flip my board around, and now I'm ready to cut the top. And you can see on this one as well, I skipped the first and the last pin. So now I'm just going to flip this over and do the same thing. All right, so we've done our pins, we've done our tails. Now we're ready to put this one stepper together, and actually it's going to go together quite easily. So now we have here the leg, we have a top, we have Have another leg. And I've taken the liberty and I cut out front edge and the back edge to basically accommodate the apron in the front as well as in the back. So the next part is just the assembly. Now we're about ready to glue these up. I'm going to take just a little brush, a little bit of glue, shake it up, work it in between the joints, and then I'm going to use these 90-degree angle clamps that I have here. I found that these things actually work quite well, and it'll really make sure that all these joints are in nice and tight. And I'm just going to take a brush, wipe it in between each one. This stuff sets up pretty quickly, especially the original. I think it takes only about 4 or 5 minutes to actually set it up, so you don't have a lot of time to work, but I just basically work it in between each joint, and then once I get it all secured into place, it only takes about a half an hour or so. Then I'll switch it over and go to the other side, and this thing will be all nice and tight. Here I'm going to show you how I do the through dowel setup. The first thing I've already done, but you likely would want to know, is how I actually did the front edges in the back and the sides. So I actually just made this tiny little jig out of some scrap wood. I used just some super glue and put that together, and what this allows me to do is essentially on any side I can clamp this up against this. And because I don't have a bandsaw or any real special tools for this, the one thing you just really want to make sure is that you can actually do something square. Like I've said before in my videos, if you can't cut it square, then you're not going to have anything that looks very nice and fine finished. But what I do have is this Japanese razor saw, and if you don't have one of these in your wood shop, I would highly suggest that you get one. They're not that expensive, but you should spend the money to get one that is really nice because it is super sharp. It flush cuts just about anything with ease, and you can make really quick work of doing just a quick square cut here to allow me to fit in these apron pieces. So if you don't have one, I'll share with you the information on this one and where I got it. Now that that is all set, I have these apron fittings that are going into the front. I've already pre-marked them for the center line here so that I know where I want to put this dowel. Plus I've also marked the center line on each end here so that I know where the dowel will be, and it'll be square when I line this up. So I'm just going to clamp this piece up. And I also am going to reuse a jig that I made in my previous video, and this is the dowel jig that I made, and this allows me also to line up a center line here on the dowel as well as the thickness of the board. I have here just a mark where I know that the center line is on this dowel, so I can simply line this up here and then get a clamp in position, as long as it's not in the way, just to line up on my center line, which will allow me to be center and square to the piece so I can actually make a dowel hole. So I've chose 5/16 for this one. These are just slightly under 3/4 of an inch. The rule of thumb is just don't have a dowel that's usually more than half the size of the width that you're going to be doing. And then the second thing that I've already done is I put a collar on here. I reused one of the center punch drill dowels drill pieces that I have. I just flipped it around, so that actually makes it so that I don't send the dowel too deep in for the sizes that I have. So you just want to make sure you don't go too far when you're sending the drill in. Now I'm just going to take this here and I'm going to line up with some on the as well and go forward. Just nice tight. Just you can see how this is going to go. These dowels, I just bought these. These are pre-made dowel rods that you can buy at any hardware store. You can use the spiral ones or the fluted ones. I just chose these because I have them laying around my shop. But you'll get a chance now to see I have now 3 pins and they are perfectly centered. I'll show you even on this. Very easily and quickly to do some through doweling, which is my favorite. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other side on this. And then for my next video, I'm going to show you just the finished product. I'm going to give it a quick sand. You don't need to see how that's done. And I'm also going to apply the tongue oil. So if you're looking for advice on how I do the tongue oil, you can check out one of my other videos. And if you want to see more of this, please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.